Welcome back, my little friends. At CES, I had no
The
intro
show
there.
that never ends.
Yeah, yeah,
Except for us, Brad.
yeah.
As I told Brad this morning, I almost texted him on Sunday with the message, hey, just landed in Vegas. What time do you arrive? And then I was going to wait, or maybe he would reply and then say, are the words, I'm so happy I don't have to type today.
Yes, and you also don't have to sleep at the Excalibur.
Right. Right. I have.
Or end up in Arizona.
Right. Was that last year?
You know, I think it's
That's so long ago. Actually, it had to have been last year.
Was it?
Yeah, because I wait, was it the year before?
I thought it was
No,
the
I
year
guess it was
before.
the year before. Yeah, because I was on JetBlue. That's right. Because that goes. Yeah.
It's funny how
Good times.
good times, great country, something like that. Yeah. Yep. Oh, what did I do? Oh, I apparently moved my mouse over because I'm no longer using the Miracast. I was gonna burn that dongle in a fire, but
Right, but the noxious fumes would kill everyone in your house, and
yeah, I mean it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen. You know what shows up today, Paul? My cameras.
oh, nice.
And if I had my
Yeah, I'm
cameras,
still
then
waiting I gotta
Yeah.
ping Microsoft about that hardware. I don't know where that is. I kind of expected it by now.
Oh, that hardware. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if I had my cameras, then I would know my cameras would arrive, but I don't, so I can't. Yep. I don't know. I don't know. My wife's just going to be pissed when she sees that box and realize there's not a Nest doorbell thing in there.
I mean, is that what she wanted? A Nest doorbell?
Yeah.
And I'm just confused that your wife had any opinion about this.
Well, it doesn't really matter because that's not what I ordered. So we'll...
Yeah, no, but I mean, for example, like with my wife, we've kind of had this discussion, not about particular products, but just about smart technology and what makes sense. And the one thing she said was, because she's kind of anti-smart technology, if it's invasive and, whatever.
Sure.
She did say, the one thing I would kind of like to have is like a number pad on the door, so that if someone didn't have their keys or if it was inconvenient to get their keys,
Sure.
they could type in the number and get in. I was like, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. So this is fun. I saw that you wrote this up too, but I have many opinions about it. I'm curious. I didn't read what you wrote because, well, you wrote it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this was late last week. Amazon did an interview right before CES that says, "Hey, we have 100 million Amazon devices out there," and then Google came out there and said, "Hey, we have about 1 billion."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of naysayers out there who will point to things like, well, this doesn't mean active users. And blah, 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 blah. Yeah, none of it means anything, but other than that those are the number of devices out in the world, and Google has 10 times as many. It's funny, when I put this together, I thought I was going to write an article that was called Google Assistant Kicks Amazon Alexa's Ass. Like, I literally went into it with that in mind.
Yeah.
Then I realized that's silly, because that's really not what's happening. Both of these things are incredibly popular. And actually, one of the things that defines this generation of personal technology, which we could call assistants or ambient computing or whatever, is that it's a lot more heterogeneous than it used to be in the past, right? Like with Windows, Mac, it was always like Windows was humongous and Mac was really small. And Android versus iPhone, same thing, basically, except in the United States. And I don't think that's how this is going to work, There are two major players, which has been very typical in digital markets, Amazon and Google. But I don't think either one of them has a vast, lead over the other. The other part of it is that there are actually two other players that kind of matter too, and they matter because they were able to leverage the previous generation of digital technology, smartphones, to get a lot of users, right? So Samsung and Apple, obviously. So it's different, and because it's different, no one is drawing a line in the sand anymore. It might have to do with past experience too. We talked about this with the browser and the recent news around Edge, and we used to have those little stickers, little buttons you would put on a website that would say, "This site best viewed in Netscape Navigator," or some stupid thing like that. Companies that are coming to market with digital services that are going to work through these smart devices are going to support all the major players. And if you as a consumer have bought into Alexa or Google Assistant in particular, you're never going to lose. It's always going to be great. Everything will always work on yours, and actually to a lesser degree probably on the other ones as well. And I think that's what defines this, right? It's kind of non-sticky. It benefits everyone that everything works with everything. You can kind of see this mirrored in Microsoft's approach to mobile, where they support all platforms now, kind of equally. This is the way the world has changed. And honestly, for anyone who's kind of a veteran of like the platform wars, whether it's PCs or smartphones or whatever, I think most people would agree. Like this is a much better thing, than was the case in the competitive landscape in the past.
The one thing I will point out is, and this isn't explicitly true, but for the most part, I think everyone who bought one of those 100 million Amazon devices bought it explicitly, or for the most part, to use it as a digital assistant, right? As opposed to where the roughly 100 or a billion Google users, it just kind of came along with their phone.
Well, okay, but so you're you're sort of forgetting the fact that actually a big part of that number is devices that people bought that are smart devices, smart speakers, smart displays. They bought them with the exact explicit same reason. So unless you believe that there are 1/10 as many, active users on the Google side, it's still
true.
What we're really comparing is the same thing, because neither company has provided and probably will never provide an active user number. Right. Amazon didn't do that either. Yeah.
The one company we haven't heard from here, Paul, is.
Yeah. Well, sorry, guys. I mentioned there were 4 players. There is a 5th, and she shall not be named by anyone using digital assistants. Am I right? Oh, no. It's hard to do a high five over Skype, but yeah. So it's okay.
I had something else. The other thing, too, that was in the Amazon interview that was actually encouraging is that they are very open to working with everybody. They aren't trying to create their own ecosystem. They pointed to their collaboration with Microsoft, and they said, hey, we would do it with Google. We would do it with anybody. They're not trying to create a walled garden, which, while true, I also don't think they're really in a position to do that either. They're not an Apple of the world where they have phones and they have PCs and everything else where they could get away with that. But
so that's kind of an interesting point, because I read that. I read the interview. God, this language in that interview that drives me crazy. Like, that's the way Amazon rolls. Like, it's like it was written by God, it's like written by a child. But anyway, the guy from Amazon, who was an adult, said some interesting things, like you said, and pointed to that thing I talked about earlier, which is that this is not. No one is establishing dominance over everyone else. Like all of the everyone. Amazon doesn't have the market power to go to GE and say, only make it for us. They're like, no, we're not doing that, and that makes it better for everyone. Also, this is kind of an emerging story. Mehdi put a story up this morning about how iTunes is going to be on newer Samsung smart TVs, which, by the way, excludes ours, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Here's the real story. It's not just Samsung, right? So everyone looked at and said, wow, like these guys compete with each other. What's going on? There are other announcements coming today that iTunes is going to be on other smart TVs as well. This is Apple. Apple doesn't open up too much.
Yeah,
but they do this when they have to, right? And so, one of the classic examples of this is when they put iTunes on Windows. It was the only way to get the iPod to take off at that time. It was never going to be popular otherwise. They put Safari on Windows briefly, remember?
Yes,
they put Apple.
I do.
They did, but they put Apple Music on Android, right?
Yeah.
And so this, when Apple talks a lot about growth in services, and the hard numbers on their services business are actually not that good. Like, they're good compared to 2 years ago because they were nothing, but they're, comparatively, like when you look at like the iPad or the iPhone or whatever, still very, very small. So to grow that business, because it is kind of the future of the company, unfortunately, and without Apple shrinking dramatically, they have to ensure that the services they provide are available elsewhere. And you and I have had these conversations about why don't they have an AirPlay-based dongle that's like Chromecast? And this is how they get there, right? You'll be able to cast content to a Samsung or LG or whatever the other companies are smartphone, and that's super smart for a company that's about to launch a TV service. So it doesn't limit it to the people who want to buy an Apple TV.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what else Apple does in 2019 for expanding their services platform, because that's their growth. Well, I shouldn't say that's their only growth. That's their easiest way to grow, probably.
It's a big component of their future, and you have this kind of established market of whatever your user base is. I might write this up, by the way, since we're on this topic. This past year, Apple revealed when they announced iOS 12 at WWDC in June, probably, that this is going to be the first, and was the first version of the OS that would make previous devices run faster. This is a huge thing because they purposefully never did that optimization work as part of a bid to get people to upgrade, to new phones.
Right.
But what we've seen over the past couple of years is this lengthening of ownership time. So it's gone from 2 years to now 3 years, and it might even go from here. And so why would Apple do this, right? When you think about a company that makes money, has made its headiest profits ever from reselling not reselling, but selling devices again and again and again to the same user base, and then growing that user base too, of course. When that goes away, why would you make it easier for someone to hang on to their existing devices? Because you're not selling them something new now it's every 3 or 4 years. And the answer is for the same reason you're seeing iTunes on these TVs. Because in the future, they see their growth coming from these services. And if you are dissatisfied with the iPhone that you already have, you might go, a lot of people would go buy a cheap Android device now.
Yeah.
And this is how you keep people in your ecosystem, even if they're buying devices less frequently. So it's not like everyone was like, oh, they're cheering Apple, like, oh, this is so altruistic. They love their users, right? And it's really, it's not about that. The iPhone, the battery upgrade program is the same thing.
Yeah.
And for Apple this past week to have claimed that they were surprised by what just happened to their business is a lie. But part of the evidence is those actions they took in the past. They saw this coming. Anyway, I know it's off topic. I'm sorry, but this is all the stuff going through my head this morning.
You sound like you've had a busy morning.
I'm a crazy person.
Well, we knew that. We've accepted that many podcasts ago that you're a little off the rails, but that's fine. That's okay. That's what makes Monday Monday.
Yep.
and speaking of Monday, this is the most CES possible headline here.
Yep.
Kohler, if you're not familiar with them, they make faucets and bathroom vanities and stuff. It says Kohler unveils new hands-free Sensate faucet with HomeKit integration.
At least it wasn't a toilet.
That was announced. Somebody announced like an integrated toilet with your IoT.
Wow. So you go into your bathroom and you're like, hey, Google, I'm looking for the royal treatment. All my phones just lit up. Whatever it is. Oh, the Google Home thing out in the living room just chimed in with something. Sorry, I can't find the royal treatment.
Yeah.
It's because I don't have a Kohler toilet yet.
Well, we might be redoing a bathroom here, or a new bathroom if things go
Maybe
well.
The toilet could have like butt recognition software so it could know what kind of thing you like.
I don't even want to know what the options are that it could like. But
exactly. No, it's like when you do a fingerprint thing, you have to now position your butt a little differently on the toilet.
Now sit on it 90 degrees.
Now move around the edge.
Oh God, we should float that by Microsoft as a new way, a new authentication mechanism, and they would be all over it.
That Cortana could be popular.
Yeah, password free.
Started in Japan. I hear they're into these smart toilet things.
They are. That is a huge market for smart toilets. So, oh yeah. So if you haven't checked it out, folks, Mehedi has written up
17 articles. It looks like
a metric load. There's some very interesting Surface Pro looking devices that literally involve a full-sized Ethernet port that only a mother could love, and I think it's actually called a mothership. Not even making that
right.
up.
I gotta look one of these up. Did you see the Acer's gaming laptop has that kind of it's like a rectangular border that acts as a hinge for the screen. And he showed it to me over the weekend, and I said, oh, I've seen that computer before. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he said, Dell used to sell one just like it. And he's like, there's no way. And I'm like, no, they did. And I looked it up, and I can't remember the name of it, but there was a Dell, probably when Windows 8 first shipped, that had that exact same kind of hinge. It was a much smaller device.
Yeah.
It was probably a 12-inch device. I don't remember exactly, but Kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that's coming out that will be of interest. There was an interesting, I think it was by Asus. I can never keep Asus or Acer. They came out with a gaming laptop with really thin bezels, and they did that by they just didn't include a webcam.
Yeah, because who's playing games and needs a webcam? Well, I guess a streamer might, but
yeah, but their idea was that
but you'd want your own camera anyway.
Yeah, the idea was that one, they can get thinner bezels, which I'm fine with. Is that if that person really needed one, they had an external one. And so if they were thinking that if it was a streamer, they're not necessarily going to want that same angle. And so I was like, actually, that kind of makes sense. I'll buy into that.
I think it was I don't remember which company, but they built what is essentially a reverse notch onto the top of a laptop, meaning that the camera bump sticks out above the screen. So, if you kind of picture a notch reverse. And I feel like that kind of thing existed in the past as well. But, yeah, whatever. That's not objectionable.
Yeah. And then there's the always ongoing joke that Paul and I recommended a laptop to a coworker of ours. That's the Dell that has the camera down at the bottom. And every time we're on a conference call, all we see are these like spider-like fingers attacking the camera. And we
always rag on her, and it's like, why did you buy that thing?
Who told you to buy
She's like,
that?
You both recommended it. We're just not terrible. We're not just terrible to each other, is what we're trying to say.
Yes. Actually, this weekend, I was working with my daughter doing a puzzle, and I was like, man, I need to launch a gaming company called Almost Complete, where we would sell like mostly complete puzzles and all sorts of stuff just to anger people. So that's how I'm going to retire.
Right. Or like you could call it 99 pieces and it's a 100-piece puzzle.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Call it the 99%. So anyways, folks, there's going to be a lot more CES stuff coming this week. You got anything else for today, Mr. Paul?
No, not really. I don't know if I'll do it now because it's been almost a week, but like I've been putting off this Apple article, that open letter was one of the most disingenuous and deceptive things I've ever seen committed to, I almost said paper, but to type or whatever. Like I'm astonished by this. Apple claiming that this kind of hit them unawares is just send shutters down any investor in this company, because there's only two possibilities. They're lying, which is what I think, or they're telling the truth and they are clueless to very clear market conditions that have been ongoing for years, and that's not what you want to see in the leadership of a company of this size. It's hard for me because it seems like bashing a little bit, and I'm really not as anti-Apple as this is going to sound.
I would say you're more anti-Apple ignorance.
Yeah. I don't
Apple.
Apple has engendered an audience of people who are just non-critical. They just everything they do is great, and it's like, guys, you got to think a little bit more than this. And the problem with that is, like, anytime you criticism, these guys descend on you and that guy from Windows, he hates Apple again. And it's like, it's kind of pointless. I actually feel like there's a potential class action lawsuit coming, by the way, from investors who are saying exactly what I just said, which is like, you cannot claim that you didn't see this coming. And you should have warned us earlier. You should have given the right guidance last time and just been honest about it. But that's not how they operate, or as The Verge would say, as how they roll. Anywho, I don't know. It's like a pointless exercise in just pointing out the obvious, and it's not going to make anyone happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'll work on it today, but I don't know. My heart's just not in it.
Maybe you could work on you a little too. Just a little,
Yes.
a little Paul time.
I'm going to take the New York Times daily challenge for wellness, I think.
I'll tell you what, though,
Do
this
6
has
minutes.
got me thinking. I might put this thing in my garage.
Yeah.
Because I always drag
looks like you should put it in a cannon.
Well, not for the reasons you would think. Well, maybe you do. Because I always drag a Sonos speaker out into the garage when I'm working on the car or whatever outside. And this thing is a great speaker. Like, it's great.
It is. That's the sadness of this. It is a great speaker.
And just use it as the Bluetooth capability. And
so they never added like stereo pairing to those things, did they? I don't know, but they should have.
Maybe they added multi-room, but maybe not stereo pairing. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think that's right. But yeah, it's a notably good speaker if you compare it to other speakers of basically the same size. Like, it actually kind of stands out in that way. If that thing ran Google, if you could switch it out for a Google Assistant, I would use it. Like I agree. It's a nice speaker.
Yeah, and I was thinking I could just leave it in the garage.
Sure.
For music when we need it outdoors. I wish it ran on a battery, but that would be a lot.
Yeah.
So.
If it was popular, someone would have built a base that would allow just that.
And on that note, folks, we will end it here today. Hopefully you have a wonderful Monday or whatever it is you're doing today, and we'll catch you right back here tomorrow.